Councilmember Wilcoxen,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Present.
Councilmember Somerville,
Present.
Mayor Richardson,
Present.
Councilmember Morgan,
Present.
Councilmember Simmons, Councilmember Jones Chance.
Present.
With 6 present, there is a quorum.
All right, thank you.
Move to excuse Councilmember Simmons for party.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. Okay,
Okay, council, the next item on the agenda is the agenda approval.
Move to approve the agenda.
Support.
are there any, it's been moved and supported to approve the agenda. Are there any changes or for? Okay, all in favor of approving the agenda as it stands?
Aye.
I heard 2 ayes.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Halinga, thank you.
Council, the next item on the agenda is public comment. Currently, there are 6 attendees. If you'd like to make comment for 3 minutes, please raise your hand and we'll allow you to speak. Okay, seeing no one with their hand raised, if it's all right with council, we can move on to the next item.
Sounds good.
Yes.
Great.
All righty. The
Sergeant
next
right along there.
is under presentations. It's a proclamation regarding National Hand Washing Week. Whereas National Hand Washing Week is held from December 1st through December 7th, and whereas personal hygiene begins and ends with our hands, and whereas regular hand washing is one of the best ways to remove germs, avoid getting sick, and prevent the spread of germs to others, and whereas experts recommend washing your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds, and whereas COVID-19 gets onto hands and is not washed off, it can be passed from person to person. And whereas germs from unwashed hands can get into the body through the mouth, nose, and eyes and make people sick. And whereas good hand hygiene, whether through hand washing or using an alcohol-based hand sanitizer if soap and water are not available, reduces the spread of germs that can cause illness, especially if done at key times throughout the day. And whereas hand hygiene is only one tool in the fight against COVID-19. And whereas wearing a mask properly, disinfecting surfaces, and maintaining social distance is essential in keeping the residents of the city, state, country, and planet safe. Now therefore be it resolved that Francis McMullan, City Manager of the City of Ypsilanti, declares December 1st through 7th to be Hand Washing Awareness Week. I encourage all citizens to care for themselves and their neighbors by following all CDC guidelines to combat COVID-19.
Thank you. Any comments on the proclamation? Okay, seeing none.
Okay, moving on to the next item, the consent agenda. Resolved by the Council of the City of Ypsilanti that the following items be approved. Resolution number 2020-260, approving the minutes of November 17th, 2020. Resolution number 2020-261, approving appointments of non-residents to boards and commissions. Resolution number 2020-262, approving ordinance 1371, an ordinance to amend city code by removing chapter 7 and 8 and replacing it with a new chapter 7 marijuana, second reading.
I'll move.
Is there support?
Support. Sorry.
It's been moved and supported. Would you call the roll, please?
Mayor Pro Tem Brown,
Yes.
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Mayor Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan,
Yes.
Let's see. Councilmember Jones Chance,
No.
Councilmember Wilcoxen.
Yes.
Motion carries with 5 yes, 1 no, and 1 absent.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next item. Under resolutions, motions, and discussions. Resolution number 2020-263, resolved by the council of the city of Ypsilanti, whereas the city has an interest in protecting the economic diversity and image of the community, and whereas the city has an interest in promoting and supporting local businesses and their growth, and whereas the planning commission has recommended that the city council adopt the proposed ordinance change, now therefore be it resolved that the Ypsilanti City Council adopt the ordinance titled Medical and Recreational Marijuana Facility Modifications on second and final reading.
So moved.
Move. Support.
Been moved and supported. Discussion? No discussion, no comments?
Yes.
Okay, Councilmember Jones Chance.
Yeah, well, I think it's probably too late. I do wish we'd have more discussion on the location of the facilities. But maybe that's something that we can do at a later time and maybe look at this a little more closely. In the past and traditionally, where things go, especially things considered nuisances, tend to be in more economically disadvantaged areas. And while I like the social equity piece here, and I think we'll probably do it better and more in earnest than anywhere else is likely to, including the state, I think maybe there are some things with respect to where facilities go that we should look into more deeply. I'm not going to hold this up, but I do think it's something that we should visit again. Zoning policies in the past, in previous decades, are sort of inherently racist. And when we go to move forward and building things and where we place things is kind of built on that foundation. And if we're not careful, we can perpetuate things unintentionally. And I think we should consider that going forward. But like I said, I'm not going to hold this up, but I did just want to say that little piece here.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Okay. All right, seeing none, Clerk Kalanga, would you please read the roll? Would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Somerville,
Yes.
Mayor Richardson,
Yes.
Councilmember Morgan,
No.
Councilmember Simmons,
Yes.
Councilmember Jones Chance,
No.
Councilmember Wilcoxen,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
Yes.
With 5 yes and 2 no, the motion carries.
All right, thank you.
All right, council, the next item on the agenda is a discussion regarding the potential Water Street development. And this discussion has a 30-minute time limit.
All right, council, we've had actually 3 meetings for with the developers and with the community. And at those meetings, they were for the residents and the community, and council did not really get chance to really make comments or to discuss or talk about it. So this is a time for us, for council to have that time for discussion. So Who would like to start it off? Boy, we're a quiet group tonight.
All right, I'll start.
All right.
Is that all right?
Councilmember Wilcoxen, yes.
Thank you. I attended all three of the public meetings and the meetings that we had as council. And it was interesting to see how the developers adapted through the meeting. So the first public meeting, there were comments made that were then incorporated into the plan in terms of the site itself, and then thinking about it. A couple major themes that came out of this. I think the most obvious one is that a lot of people were looking at the 10% affordable housing and wanting to raise that. Lots of people were saying, from 10% to 20%. Some people went as high as 25%. And one person on the last meeting actually went as high as saying, well, why don't we just do this as the entire thing as affordable housing? And Joe Meyers has pointed out why that's not feasible in various meetings and recent communications. But I think overall this plan fits what was set forth in the 2013 master plan. This was supposed to be a mixed use with somewhat dense housing, dense development. Some of the folks that commented said that it wasn't dense enough. And I would agree with that. I think there's room for more density. There's room for different forms of housing to make that affordable in terms of small houses. One of my constituents had mentioned that. And that is something that the developers had referenced in one of the later meetings too, that does have potential to have smaller houses on smaller plots of land. Some of the other things that came up from my constituents were that this is not as people friendly as they would like it to be. This is not having the river drive is antithetical to the walkable bikeable neighborhoods, and people wanted to see more green space, and the developers assured that there would be ample green space along the trail. But from looking at the plan itself, it doesn't look like that is the case. I floated ideas past them to take out that river drive and have those north-south streets end in cul-de-sacs that were big enough for people to be dropped off for houses and to access the trail. And I think that's a reasonable thing. There are design elements that the architect had listed as well. I think he called by name is Wooner. This is what a lot of the streets in Amsterdam and other places in the Netherlands are like, in which everybody's on the same level, and cars are moving much slower because there's foot traffic and bike traffic on the same level. So lots of people had expressed interest in those kinds of designs to me as well. I think that's pretty much the big thing, is like people wanted more density, people wanted less car traffic, and they wanted more affordable housing. And it's not clear to me, the developers seem to be willing to listen to some of that at some point and not at other points. And I don't get a really good feel for them in terms of how willing they are to change what they're doing. In many cases, they seem to have the approach that, we're not going to say now, but we are going to say now. And that's the feeling I got from some of the discussion that was happening in those three meetings. With that, I'm done for the moment, and go on to somebody else.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Oh,
I have,
Jennifer,
oh.
Councilmember Simmons?
I'll just say, I think, from the design element standpoint, that's, from what I understood was, hey, this is kind of what we're presenting, but it seems like there's, obviously some potential for that to change or be tweaked based on, input or further design elements. I think one of the things they mentioned about the housing affordability aspect is when you do the overall kind of cost and what it costs to build per square foot and things like that, clearly they have to be able to, that this has to make sense from a number standpoint. And so I understand where that's a challenge. But I think overall, I think it's, I think there's a lot of positives here. I don't think we're ever going to have a perfect plan for this location. In fact, I think this location has a lot of challenges that, make it not very desirable to develop, and the cleanup of the land is one of the ones that's really huge. And so anyway, but so I guess I think there's a lot of good things here. It's not perfect. It's not going to satisfy, every single person, but I think there's still a lot to really be positive about. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that for the moment.
Hey, thank you. Council Member Morgan.
Thank you, Mayor. I was a part of one of those sessions with the developers. And the only thing that I would like to add, to addition to what everyone else said, is just, I know Ypsilanti has historic development, history. So I just think as a city, we want to be inviting and welcoming to people who are coming into our city to put millions of dollars in. However, I think we're so thirsty sometimes we can be willing to accept whatever comes because it's necessary. So I don't want to move along in certain processes because of the necessity only. But I do think this group of developers came in very knowledgeable, willing to work with the city. And so I just think if we can diversify the vision for what that place can be beyond condensed living, I think it'll open it up to more different development. So I thought, I just want to thank the staff for putting together and entertaining a lot of those sessions and working with the community. So I just want to say thank you to the staff and for everyone who took part in it.
All right, thank you. Council Member Jones Chance.
Yes, I agree with pretty much everything that's been said. I think Mr. Wilcoxen makes some good points, and actually, I think we were on one of those same calls. I brought up the pedestrian friendliness and how this is just very car dependent. We already have traffic problems, and I think these are, these seem to be great people, good developers. They obviously know their stuff. But it just seems like a very traditional development and design. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but I'm not 100% convinced that that's what we need or what residents really want. So I'd like to hear more from them and then about that, and see a little bit more how they're willing to adapt, and they have been responsive. And so I think for where we are in the process, that's probably what we've got is probably the best we can hope for in terms of building a relationship with these developers. But I would like to see some progress on the planning end of it. The other section with issue with the affordable housing, I would like to see that increase. I think there are some natural levers we can pull to make things more affordable, and one of those is building more units. I mean, if you want to make $100,000, you can do that with 100 units, or you can do that with 1,000 units, and you're going to make the same amount if you charge less on more units. So, it's pretty clear that building more will yield less as long as the construction costs remain in line. And obviously lumber prices are very high right now because of the pandemic and things like that. So I get that it's going to be more expensive to build. And I get that they probably can't really project the end of the project and its costs, starting right now. The other issue is we don't know what they're projecting. And so that makes it really hard for us to guide our own decisions. So with affordable housing, it sounds like I haven't heard much about subsidies and subsidizing housing, which would actually require, which would give them fair market rent as determined by HUD, and would actually mandate that they charge market rent on the other units. So they really wouldn't be losing any money. In fact, they'd be getting more guaranteed income on the subsidized units, but they may not be using subsidies. And I don't know if Joe or anyone else has some insight on that.
Joe's hands up. I think he might have a response to that. Joe?
Yeah, so one of the big concerns that people always have about the subsidized housing that goes through the Housing Commission is the rents on that are able to be charged are for the county. And so when you go through a MISTA subsidized process, it kind of takes the city's ability to negotiate out of it, and it puts it right at the county's affordable housing levels at 60 or 80%. With that being said, the developer has indicated the 10% wouldn't go through those. It would go through what the community determined as affordable. And so while this might not be as many units affordable that some people want, from what I can tell, it's actually going to be more affordable for the community because we could really base that number on our actual data instead of what HUD determines our affordability levels are.
Okay, so that also though makes the math a little bit more difficult for them because that is a decrease in the revenue. So we're probably not going to be able to have it both ways. So do we want?
Well, no, but Brian, so the problem that we have on this site is MISTA won't allow any tax credit projects happen until the entire project is cleaned up. It has to happen before. We've had this issue many times with all of the developments there. So basically, until the property's cleaned up, which we need some sort of TIF to do that, we can't put any sort of HUD/MISTA funding on it. And that's just based on all of the communication that we've gotten, unless we fence off the direct property that is subsidized through MISTA, which we don't want to do. So that's kind of that's one of the issues. And I don't agree with what MISTA is saying. Please know that. But that is their determination.
Well, I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, obviously you don't want to build any kind of housing on contaminated land, but it's going to be cleaned up before anything's built anyway. What I'm talking about is using subsidies after things are built. And again, we don't really have access to any of their financials to be able to see what their thinking is on this and how they're really calculating whether or not they can do it. And without that sort of insight, if we can't get any sort of direct communication with them about it, I don't want to push them away, but I do want us to get a little bit closer to what our needs are. As it stands, I think it's a good development. But if we can change just a few things and make it a little bit better and closer in line to what residents seem to be wanting, that would be a good thing. And I think they seem like the kind of folks who will entertain us a little bit on some of those things. I did have another question about the tax increment financing, and I haven't looked at the agreement, and maybe if that's available somewhere, it'd be cool to read through it. But I did have a question about when parcels can be taxed again after they're subdivided. And Joe, I'm guessing you know the answer, but let's say they're sectioning off sites, individual parcels for single family homes. Are we able to assess again once they are sold to a new end buyer, or does the time expiration remain in place?
So once the property is sold, it becomes all taxable. Okay. Immediately. So there's not like once this parcel is sold, when we sell the property, it then has a value that we have come up with that right. it will be. And then as that happens, as it's subdivided, then new values will be placed based on the assessor. So there's going to be one big value And then each time we have a cost per square foot of land that is done through the assessing department. But that would be more for the assessor. But
Yeah, I guess my scenario would be they buy the huge chunk of land and they're going to build some single family developments to be sold to, single families. Once that property is sold to the family, is there still abatement on it, or can it be taxed?
so the brownfield plan that we have in place is on the entire property.
So it doesn't
Okay.
matter if they parcel it off. So we
No.
just have to wait.
Basically, the only way to actually get any tax revenue to clean up or anything is to sell the property. As of right now, the property is zero taxable value, so there's nothing. So the second it's sold, there would be a value added immediately. Well, the next year, and then as it was subdivided, a larger piece of property, is worth less per acre than cut up properties depending on the location.
Right, but we're not getting those revenues right away. So I guess.
So the revenues and that.
Right.
No, we're not getting increment, but we're also not getting taxes. Like right now, there's not like, yeah.
So I guess my question is, when is there a point before the end of whatever, however long the TIF lasts after it's sold, however long the abatement lasts after it's sold, is there a way to shortcut the process so that we can collect the increment on individual parcels as they get sold to third parties? So from developer to end user. I don't know how our agreement is structured.
So there's no agreement right now. So the agreement would be created by council. So the increment, so there's a couple things. There's the actual taxable value, and then there's the increment. The increment is basically what is in the TIF to pay off certain things. And so this is a very complex thing based on things that have been done since 2002. Okay. So it's really hard to kind of, there's a TIF and a brownfield plan and a city-owned property. And so all three of those things will all work together. But there, as far as the TIF, the second it goes on the tax roll, increment will be collected. As properties get split off, those properties will have a higher value. So that value will be increased to go towards the increment. And then once the eligible activities is determined by council, and let me be very clear, I'm not a brownfield expert. On the 15th, we're going to have a brownfield expert come talk to you guys about this, because I think there's some confusion. So, and sorry for jumping ahead a little bit, but there will be a lot of info. It just took a couple weeks to pull everyone together, but there will be 2 brownfield experts and then 2 developers that are not associated with this project whatsoever to discuss development costs and brownfield cleanup.
Okay, so I guess that will help. My main concern really is, given the sort of times we're in, and I'm sure expecting some kind of, crunch in city revenue, how quickly can we get the increment or however the brownfield plan is going to work paid down so that we can actually begin using those revenues from that added value. And maybe we can design it so that there's a way for us to shortcut it a little bit or something. So it sounds like that part of the process, we're not to that yet.
Well, just to kind of give you an example. So the Thompson block is the most recent brownfield plan that the city has done. And the DDA actually captures 5% of the revenues that come into that. So the city can actually create a plan how they choose. So this will be a separate brownfield plan that'll have to be created, and we can actually craft that to make sure that we can clean up the contamination while still receiving certain revenues and some portion of them to help pay for the added cost of the development. So there's lots of things that can happen, but there's also lots of ways that things can get stymied.
And do you think this is something we should be thinking about before the letter of intent phase?
So I would say that this should be thought about during the community benefits ordinance, because the letter of intent basically says, we like your concept, do more investigation. We have signed a letter of intent. And then when the purchase agreement happens, and then any TIF plan that's created through the CBO, that's where that all gets negotiated, because it's impossible to know what the cleanup costs will be until further investigation is done. There's just no way. And that's going to be the bulk of the plan, is to actually clean up the property. And so I know some people have been concerned about that aspect, but until we have the exact number of what it's going to cost to clean up, there's no way we can know how much the incentive will be. So there's no way to figure out how long that incentive will have to go.
Right. I'd like to add, I remember the developers stating that as a part of phase one, they would do the commercial and the frontage on the Michigan Avenue side, and then also the multifamily. And I believe that would acquire taxes that could go toward the other part. But I do believe they wanted to get that part functioning first, the frontage. And then we could realize those taxes right away. Am I right, Joe? If we were to
Yeah.
get occupants in there and businesses, and then develop back from there. And I
Yeah,
think
I mean,
we can make sure that that happens, but we don't know when we'll realize it, because we don't know when the cleanup and how much that's gonna be. But that's the plan.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I fully expect that they will do that. I mean, the single family is probably not where the money is anyway.
Right.
But, okay. I don't have anything else, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, my hand's up.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry, missed it.
It's okay. Yeah, so I attended all 3 sessions. Each session was a little different. I did like that there were things that were either mentioned the first time that we had a small meeting among council members and the developers before we had the first public meeting. And I noticed that they were already taking input that we provided prior to that first public input session, and then after that first public input session. I know I personally like their reason for the road. The trail, everyone loves the trail. The trail's great. One concern that had been mentioned several times that I also share is if there's not that space in between, it'll feel like those residential homes have private access to public resources. And I could see how that could become a thing for people. I mean, we have people that fight over alleys in this city. So I could just see this being an issue. And I share, it is being built similar to other developments in that it's very car dependent. Maybe I'm a pessimist, but I actually don't think that by the time this project would be developed, that we would be ready for the people who would be interested in either buying the single family homes or the townhomes or living in the apartments to be fully dependent on public transit. So I think that the way that they have it designed kind of fits where we're at currently, despite what might happen. We're still like at least a decade or more out from there. I do like the plan and the mixed use. I would like to see more density. I realize that it's more expensive to go up. That's what I would prefer, but I would prefer it to be more dense. I think that given where Michigan's at and the current climate crisis, we'll see an influx of people moving to the state. I know that there are lots of folks looking at relocating from across the country into southeastern Michigan. So it's an opportunity for us to prepare for that also. I'm excited about the possibility of a market. I think that it's great that they realize that we're in a food desert in the city of Ypsi. So I think that's, really good. I like that the front is going to be commercial on Michigan Ave. I think that fits into the walkable areas downtown and in Depot Town. So yeah, I'm excited to engage further with them. I think that we should definitely continue on. I've talked to a lot of former council members that have been through a number of different potential projects on Water Street. And I did talk to the mayor, and I do think that this is, of the plans that they've seen before, the most viable. So I do think that we have that in our favor. So yeah, I mean, my number one ask is just more density.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilmember Brown.
Yeah, I don't want to like repeat much of what others have said, because a lot of the things that I was thinking have been said, but I just wanted to definitely go on record in stating that being present for several previous proposals, this absolutely is the most well-rounded and robust that I've seen, and actually them having that listening ear and taking feedback from our constituents immediately in mid-conversation and coming back with answers for us is something that I have not seen. And I have not been on council that long, but in 6 years, I've seen quite a bit and experienced quite a bit. And so I think that moving forward and continuing discussion with them is an important next step for us. I'm really excited about what I've seen. And of course, we talked about it originally in our small meeting with them about density. I would be open to more density, higher density, if that is a possibility. But just wanting to reiterate that this is a really solid plan with developers who are known for doing good work. And I think that we should absolutely rally behind this project and figure out how we can make this work for us because it's necessary. So that's all.
Thank you. Any other council members? Has everyone had an opportunity? Okay, Steve.
Well, Mayor,
Hi,
someone else.
I'll defer to Mr. Morgan.
Mr. Morgan, are you? Okay,
Yes, I just wanted to ask,
Oh.
thank you, Steve. I just wanted to ask, just make a statement, because if there's a way to tell, because I think the development is necessary. I'm just wondering in plain terms, like if we know how bad the landscape, or how toxic, or how unready it is to prepare for development. I think that'd be a good, regardless of who comes in or what kind of plans are going to be laid over top. I think to have that remediation understanding, like, is it dire? Is it beyond toxicity level? Is it like, so I just think to have an understanding, so whoever comes in, again, because I know they're going to find out and do the cleanup, and I know it's still up in the air, but I think we've had so much time as a city to determine what that is, to factor that into the cost of whoever comes in. So that's just my 2 cents.
Mayor, can I?
Yes.
So, Councilmember Morgan, that's one of the reasons why we're going to have the brownfield experts on the Zoom for next meeting. One of the experts is Nathan Vogt. Some of you may have met Nathan. He is he's well-rounded. He's the county's brownfield expert. He also was the former city planner for the city, and he's done a lot of work around Water Street, and so he does know the contamination. And my speaking with him, and also I do represent the city on the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority, so I know a little bit. I'm not as well versed as he is, but they a lot of the work is actually what's called due care. So it's making sure that you are treating the contamination properly. And making sure that it is safe. There is going to need to be some removal, but we do have a really good idea of how contaminated it is. The problem that we have is we haven't seen the amount of residential that this developer is looking to do. And so that's why there definitely needs to be additional investigation based on the current use, because every use that we have requires a different form of due care and removal. So industrial requires a much less level of due care than, let's say, residential. And so a lot of the times when we've done studies, it's been more kind of what's deemed commercial, even though it's more multifamily residential. Because this has some single family, there will be a little bit added expense, or at least
Are you saying the studies that determine the care level or what needs to be done can determine what, or this what can be built there? Or
No, what I'm saying is that the studies that need to be done will determine the level needed for remediation. So it's not what can be there. Anything can be there as long as you follow the proper due care procedures. And so that's why, like I said, next meeting, we're going to have 2 experts come in and really explain this to all of council and the public. And I really would like the public to actually, we're going to do some additional advertising of the meeting just so we can try to get people to come out to understand development and brownfield cleanup, because people are hearing a lot of things and they don't always understand exactly what that means. And so that's why it's important for people to understand. And luckily all of our meetings are recorded, so that helps.
thank you, Joe.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's going to be really helpful for folks to understand. Knowledge is power, as we're seeing with many things lately.
Councilmember Wilcoxen, you yielded the floor. It's
Yep,
back
yep.
to you.
Thank you. Yeah, I was just looking through the Shape IPSI plan for this, and while these 2 plans have a lot in common, I mean that plan seemed to have a lot more commercial and a lot more open space than what we're looking at here. One of the things that had come up in all of the meetings is impermeable surfaces, and I know that plays into what remediation you have to do if you're going to cap something off with asphalt. People don't care as much, but the idea here is that certain elements were put into the 2013 plan, such as a lagoon for all the runoff from the entire site, things like that. And I didn't see that. And when we talked about it during the meetings, they said, yeah, we're going to follow, we have to follow the laws. And it's like, well, yeah, obviously that's the case, but it didn't seem to be built into this in a way. So, they're proposing a number of surface lots. I had objection to having the surface parking lots right along the river. And there's 2 places behind retail A and just south of the apartment building, that there would be surface lots that butt up against the trail that's already there. And I think that's not the optimum use of that space. I brought up in the private meeting that a parking structure would be good, and I think other people brought it up in other places as well. And the answer I got was it's very expensive. And they're saying $38,000 per parking space, something like that. But and their response was that, well, the city would have to do something about that. And I think that, the previous conversations about parking and looking at this plan, I think there's a better design, and admittedly it's going to be way more costly, but I think that's something that, when I look at this plan, I was just like, this is just more of the same. It's not very inventive. It's not very creative. I mean, it is just what it is, and that's kind of how they approached it. We looked at what is in the city now, and we're going to continue that. And I'm like, well, here's an opportunity to be progressive and be creative and create something that is attractive, more so than just the status quo on these things. And with that, a different way to look at parking would be there. And again, that they're putting that on the city to deal with that. And I don't know how we could go about raising funds to do that and consolidate the parking so that you have more space, to accommodate the things that at least my constituents were talking about in terms of more green space and certainly more walkable areas. But just something that I brought up with Joe in emails is that, this developer approached us in 2019, and we had agreed at some point to enlist the help of MEDC, and that hasn't happened. And Joe explained why that hasn't happened. But in looking at this and to address what Anthony Morgan was saying earlier, is that doing something because, it's presented to us and it seems like a good thing at the time versus actually having a choice, and having a choice between multiple plans and looking at that approach as opposed to one developer comes in and says this. And we can't compare this to previous developer plans, but what would somebody else bring into this? And do we run this to the full extent of this process with these folks, and then if it doesn't work, we engage with somebody else, or this didn't really go out for an RFP. I guess what I'm getting at, and I'm wondering what other council people think about, having more than one proposal. So,
Can I comment on that?
Yes.
So I'm kind of surprised actually, Steve, to hear you say that. I mean, this property's been sitting there, I mean, and I know that Joe, I think, and his staff have been kind of working on that. And so there ain't nobody else to a certain extent, and we've been down this path. So yeah, it would be great if we have choices and all kinds of things, but that's not kind of the case. And I don't know that I feel super desperate, like, oh my God, but I do feel a little desperate, but not to give everything away. I don't think they have a horrible plan. I think there's a lot of good things here. I'm not surprised either. They came with, hey, this could be our vision, but it sounds like they're really open to hearing, oh, you want a different kind of design on the houses, or, or the buildings, or this or that. I mean, they seem very open to a lot of that. So, I'm not offended by that either. I think that, that's where the dialogue happens, and we say, this is what may fit our community better. But, to a certain extent, I mean, we're not really in that position that, I mean, yeah, we've got a millage on this thing, so I guess, I mean, if you want to look at it that way, but I know that, Joe, his staff, city manager, they've been trying to work this thing, and people know it's out there, but nobody wants it. It's an issue. This contamination is an issue. I mean, it's a great site, and it's also like a hot mess and a disaster at the same time. So.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Simmons, for bringing that up. I'd like to bring, and maybe some of you council members are aware of this. We've gone through parceling out the property because the council at that time thought that if people would buy it because, they'll take little pieces of it. And that's how we got the little Family Dollar, and the rest of them went nowhere. So then we came back and tried to say that we're going to look at this as a whole. And I think that's why this proposal is so appealing, because of that. Yeah, we've had people take bites at it, but they want this part over here and that part over there. And that's really not going to work for us. We've tried that before. So it's really going to be incumbent upon this council to do its homework of the past, basically, or ask us to see where we've been. I've been here since 2007, and it was an issue. And I've watched the property sit and sit. We've actually gone out to different conventions and real estate affairs to market the property. Tried so many things, and we're willing to keep trying. But this is on you, council, to we would hope that you would listen to staff, and that we can come together with the developer to find something that works. But a lot of things that you're saying, we've heard pretty much. And basically, Ypsilanti has been on the side of running developers away because we demand so much. And the property has so much wrong with it. So I think we're gonna have to sit down, and that's why staff is trying to give you this information, what contamination is like, so that you can get educated and come up to speed. Like, this is not a prestige, piece of property. And that we're not going to give it away. We're going to get some taxes from it, but we're going to try our best to meet in the middle. And I'm hoping that you guys will do the homework. And I'm really thankful for what Councilmember Simmons has said. Nobody's biting for this. It's just out there, and it's going to be incumbent upon us to maybe we'll just like it to stay green space forever. but I know that you can only go through so many developers and you just get an X. Kind of like they're too hard to work with. And I don't want us to get that name. We've almost gotten that name because, you know, we can't be satisfied and no one is going to win. So you need to look at the fact that we have no infrastructure. It's going to cost a lot. Roads are going to cost a lot. The contamination, that's going to cost a lot. It's not a prime site. So I want you to take all that into consideration. I am in so much agreement with the more density because that will increase the tax dollars. But then on the other hand, I hear people say they don't want as much traffic, you know? Density is going to bring that. So this is where we're going to have to come together. Are we going to have density? You know, then I heard someone say, but it's too much. I don't know if I want that much traffic in that area. So I really want to ask council to look at this really, really hard and go back and look at all of the people we've entertained, the many times we've zoned or rezoned to try to make it attractive. Maybe one of you guys have someone that you know that's willing to take it, and that's fine, because I found that every council that's seated had the best idea and it went nowhere. And I'm just saying that from my own history. And that's all. Thank you for Mayor for indulging me.
Thank you,
No
City Manager.
problem.
Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you both. Any other comments? And I do, when I asked that, I believe all council members have had an opportunity. So if any of the staff that's on at this time on the, would like to have something to add to the conversation. Okay, seeing none. Is your hand up, Councilmember Jones-Chance?
Yeah, I just had a quick question.
Yes.
Are we still requiring first flush be provided by the developers?
First what?
It's because maybe that's why there's so many impermeable surfaces. I'm sure
What
Joe
was your
knows.
repeat your question, please. I didn't hear it all.
Are we still requiring first flush from the developer?
So because we're nowhere near the stormwater phase of this development, the stormwater requirements haven't even factored in. The parking lot landscaping requirements haven't factored in. There's going to be a lot more green space. But they basically, when you're doing a conceptual site plan like this, it's kind of, here are the lots, here are the commercial buildings, here's the parking, but that none of those actual details that everyone wants to know are in that, because that costs lots of thousands of dollars to actually put together. And so, no, those requirements have not been put in because we're not anywhere near that part of the development.
And do they have an option as to whether they're going to provide public or private streets?
I believe we allow for private streets in the city. There aren't any that I'm aware of.
Yeah, we didn't.
So probably not, but anything is negotiable, and because it would probably end up going through a PUD process. There are things that could be in there. Once again, that does give the community and the city more flexibility in going through the PUD process.
Right, and that's what I'm thinking. Maybe there are ways that we can help them, give them a few things, and we can get a little bit closer, and maybe there's just a good way to meet more in the middle, but get some of the things that we're hearing we want, as well as the things that we need.
Yeah, so
just need more information to do that.
Well, and that's always the problem. A letter of intent is always the first part of the process. And people feel like that means it's the end of the process, but it's not. It means that both parties are going to make a good faith effort to try to make this happen. Because please, sorry.
I guess what I mean more is they're basing their design and their feasibility on something. There's a mathematical model here. So they have some rough costs and some rough estimate of what they expect to bring in, but there's really no way for us to kind of help each other out if we don't know what that is, and maybe we'll get there naturally. And like I said, I think it's a good project. I think these are good people, and I think if we engage with them, we'll get maybe more than we think we would. I don't think there's a reason to be afraid, but I do want us to try.
Ms. Jones.
Thank you, Council. I just wanted to echo what the city manager and Council Member Simmons said. This is an exciting project. I looked at it, and of course, I'm not an expert on development, but it looked really promising to me. And I'm just hoping that we can come across as a developer-friendly community. And I just want to thank all of you for your time, and especially our staff that's put many hours into this. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
You're welcome. Okay. Any other staff? Okay, seeing none, and our time it's time to bring this to a close anyway. Clerk Kalinga, did you have anything before I actually give remarks and close it out?
No, I wanted to thank Joe and his team and Francis. Absolutely, we need to work with the developers and try to get to a place that's both beneficial to the city and the developments. We have to kind of also follow what the market is going to allow. I think with any development, you want to be cautious, but you also don't want to be overly cautious that the developers are going to say, well, this isn't going to work for us. They're not going to spend their resources to get to a no that they already believe it's going to happen. So I think we need to be cautious, but at the same time, be optimistic and try to work with the developers and make this work for the city.
All right, thank you. Okay, seeing none, no other hand. I have listened to all of the comments, and I think I'm the only one here that is not pushing for more density. I'm not, that would not be a deal killer for me, more density, but personally, I like the density as it is. I know more density would bring us more taxes, but it's just my thing about density and people being packed up on top of each other. However, I strongly agree with the city manager and council member Simmons. We don't want to be known as a unfriendly developer city. And if we do, then we will lock ourselves out. And I believe that we would not get, it'll be a long time before we get someone else that's really interested in that parcel of land. As the city manager said, it's not prime land. Whoever purchases it and develops on it, they're going to have to spend a lot of money cleaning it up before they can even begin to build on it. So, and I think that we're still early enough in the whole phase that we can listen to them, and I've seen them listen to us, and we said some things and they came back with some different showing that they had listened to us. But I think that it's something that it's going to take, we're going to take our time, and it's going to take time, but I think we need to be friendly to them and welcoming, so that they don't feel that they're not welcome here. It's just been, I have been here the full 20 plus years, or the 20 years that Water Street has sat there, and we've had developers come, and everything that the city manager said, and those things were going on somewhat even before 07. We were looking for, we thought we had a developer, and the very day that we got the last piece of land there on Water Street, that developer totally, we got the word that they were backing out simply because of the dirt that was there on the land. And even borings had been made, but the borings didn't show how truly dirty that land is. But I I just hope that we can work through and come to an agreement with this developer. I like the plan. And I do like the developers. I've talked with ahead of time where session just to meet with the developers here, with Steve and with Laith and John. And then I did have a time on the phone with Lee this past week. So I believe that there are people that we can work with and people that will work with us. And I just say, let's just keep moving forward. And one of the things that I do want to say, I have learned in life with most things, we don't always get everything we want. But if we can get what we need out of this, and what we need is we need a stronger tax base. And I believe that we can get that. I know it's hard when you really want something, but you can't have it or you can't get it. But I do believe that they will work with us. And I believe that we can get some of the things for this project that we want. So thanks everybody for your comments and for joining in to the conversation. And we're going to close this portion and move on with the agenda. Clerk Kalinga.
Council, the next item on the agenda is the liaison reports. First report is SEMCOG.
There hasn't been a meeting. However, I did forward some of the webinars to staff, and I believe also to council members. So if you didn't get something from me about SEMCOG, please let me know and I will resend it. Okay. Also, there's going to be a General Assembly meeting in January, which will be a virtual meeting.
Okay, Council, the next item is the Watts report.
So there was a meeting, let's see, was it last week? And actually it's kind of a big meeting for us. Bonnie and Ron were also in attendance, and through their excellent work in drafting a memo and whatnot, we got Watts's support, unanimous support for a couple projects that we're looking to do. So one of them is we're looking for money for that Huron Pathway project. Also project at Hamilton, Huron, and Washtenaw, the road diet project, which is going to increase safety for pedestrians and bicyclists, and another Cornell to LaForge project. So, I mean, they could definitely tell you more about the details of those. It's not that we needed Watts approval or support, but it's helpful in getting, when we put in for the funding, I guess, and getting that. And so we got their support, and it was through their awesome work. I just kind of presented a little bit and they did the rest. So I want to say kudos to them for their great work and helping move along some really big projects and getting the support that will be really helpful for us. So, and that's it at the moment for them, for Watts.
Council, next item is Urban County.
The meeting was canceled.
Okay, DDA.
Good evening, Council. DDA board meeting in a couple weeks. We're going to be approving the lease and options agreement for the purchase of Riverside Arts Center. Been working through that quite a bit, and think we're just about ready to have it approved.
Next item is Friends of Rutherford Pool.
Their meeting is later on this week, so I don't have anything to report from them.
Okay, next item on the agenda is council proposed business.
Okay, thank you. Council Member Morgan, do you have any council proposed business?
Yes, Mayor. There was a meeting. I don't know if I can put it in writing. There was some comprehensive things that they were talking about, the community policing new project that the Chief DeGiusti was explaining.
Are you still there? I think we lost you, Councilmember Morgan.
Mayor, I think I'm not in the place where the reception is crazy, so I'll forward my report to the council by 5 o'clock tomorrow
All right, thank you.
via email.
Thank you. And he moved on me. Councilmember Somerville.
Yes. I have two nominations that I would like to propose for the HDC. Let me pull up so I don't say the names wrong. James Ratzlaff, Joe. I don't know if you want to correct my bad pronunciation of that last name.
I believe that's correct.
So I don't know if anyone's interested in supporting that. We did get the online submittal a few weeks ago. I do know, and I don't know like if this is like historically accurate, but this would help diversify the HDC. As far as I can tell, this person is African-American. I don't think we currently have any people of color on the HDC. Is that correct, Joe?
That's correct. This is also in the historic South Side, which we haven't had a member on there from that part of the historic district in many, many years.
So I don't know, is anyone interested in supporting that nomination to get on the next agenda?
I'll support it.
Thank you. And then correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know if anyone off the top of their head, I believe there are 2 vacancies on the HDC. Does anybody know? I don't see Scott on.
I can tell you in a second. Give me one moment.
Okay, cool. Because we had two individuals apply, and I think there are 2 spots, but trying to think if I have anything else to fill in the time here. I don't have anything that hasn't already been mentioned earlier, but I do. Can we just come back to me maybe for that second?
I sure can. We can.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Councilmember Simmons.
Yeah, so I wanted to bring up Anthony, Councilmember Morgan and Mayor Pro Tem Brown, and sorry, we didn't add this to the agenda, but we did talk about the latest mini grant that had come through, and we all were in agreement for that. That was Gail Wilcox submitted that one, and I don't know if any Councilmember Morgan or Mayor Pro Tem Brown want to say anything related to that, but we wanted to make sure that we got that word out. I think City Manager McMullan, you work to administer those. I'm still kind of new to the mini grants, so sorry.
Yeah, we wanted to have it added to the next agenda so that we could vote on it as a body. Because we reviewed it as a group, the 3 of us, and would like it to come back to council now.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So I'm still learning on that one. So
no problem.
Thanks. So we want to do that. If we can add that to the next agenda. And then I guess I also had a question related to Councilmember Somerville. We had another person who had submitted to be on the ethics Board of Ethics. I think we have a vacancy on that one as well. Clerk Kalinga?
Yes, there is one vacancy on the Board of Ethics, and HDC only has 1 vacancy currently.
Okay, yep, and I also just found that email too with the numbers. Thanks, Andrew.
Okay, so I wanted to bring forward then this nomination, which I think everybody should have received. It's Brian Coffey. And if
I would support that.
Okay. So I guess that will be then, we'd have that on the next agenda if I.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Is that it?
That's it. Thank you so much. Yep.
Okay. All right, Councilmember Wilcoxen.
My only thing was going to be Brian Coffey, and so since Jennifer had brought that up, I have nothing to add at this point.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Jones Chance.
I don't have anything.
All right. Mayor Pro Tem Brown.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, my camera's off. I'm having a little bit of an eye issue right now, so I didn't want you to see you all. My eyes so red. But actually, Councilmember Simmons brought up the mini grant. That was one thing that I was going to talk about tonight. And then also just wanting to thank staff, and in particular, I wanted to give Joe some praise and lift him up for, you know, just all of the information that he has been funneling to me as I've been asking many, many questions about the development and just items necessary to share with the community so that we can make sure that we're educating everyone on what this development is about and what they're bringing to the table, as well as City Manager McMullan for also answering all of the many plethora of questions that come about with this. So I'm really appreciative of all the hard work that staff have been doing and trying to help us move that forward. And you know, it goes without saying, but I wanted to put it on, you know, on record and during a meeting again to verbally just let you all know that I am thankful regardless of what direction this goes in. You've been doing so much work for us and really, I appreciate that. That's all, thank you.
Okay, all right, that's it. Thank you. Clerk Kalinga.
Mary, you are going to go back to Councilmember Somerville.
Yes. Are you ready?
Oh, you know, I actually figured out that there's not another vacancy until
Okay.
January. So that would be all of my council proposed business, other than just to echo what Council or Mayor Pro Tem Brown just said. Thank you all staff so much, especially City Manager and Joe. But really everyone, thank you. I know that this is takes a lot of hard work.
All right, thank you. Okay.
Okay, the next item is communications from the mayor.
All right, I too want to, and if I didn't in my other remarks, thank staff. I do want to thank Joe and the city manager and Clerk Kalinga and all the staff and Christopher for the work that they've been doing on on this proposal for Water Street. I think it's something that's very important. I think that it is a tremendous opportunity for us, one that I think that we need to think through and get as much as we can out of it without giving away the whole plot of land, but at the same time also working so that it does go through. I do appreciate staff and all the staff has been doing and is doing to make this on this project. I know it's not been easy, and thanks to Joe for setting up the meeting on the 15th. Right now, I think I would like to ask council members if you would please, if you could recommend people from your ward for the HRC. I believe we have 4 vacancies, correct, Clerk Kalinga?
Currently, we have 6 vacancies on the HRC. There are three members or 3 active members, and then there's one that's about to expire, and she hasn't attended meetings for quite some time. And the way their bylaws are written, they can't meet without 4 members.
Right. So we need, there's 6 vacancies?
Well, 5 right now. The other one will fall.
Okay. So please, council members, please look around your wards and make recommendations, offer names for the HRC. That's one of our more important commissions, and we really need it up and running. And they do need do need to have enough so that they actually can have a meeting. So I think that is pretty much what I have for tonight, Andrew.
Okay, council, next item on the agenda is communication from the city manager.
Okay, I just have one announcement, and Ron is here if he wants to expound on it. But I'm just happy to announce that the city received a grant award from Eagle, which is Environment, Great Lakes and Energy Department. And it's going to go toward expanding our recycling efforts. It's going to start, as we talked about before, downtown and Depot Town next to where we currently have trash receptacles. So I'm excited about that. We can't do everything we wanted to do with recycling, but we're crawling along. And WERMA is doing what we need them to do. We're a member of WERMA, who was also awarded funding to continue to help us get something going in the county. So I'm excited about recycling tonight. And thank you, Ron, for being our liaison on that committee, and then for also being responsible for the grant and writing of the grant. So kudos to Ron and his staff and to us. So we'll be receiving some new recycling receptacles. And I was hoping that Mayor Pro Tem or the mayor would announce their upcoming town hall.
Thank you. That was on my.
Your close.
and it just-
Okay, and so that's
Thank
all I have for now. I hope everyone had a nice Thanksgiving. Everyone is staying safe. I did sponsor a proclamation earlier about washing our hands. I know it seems so simple, but right now we need to be reminded of all the best hygiene practices that we can do to help curb COVID. I'm glad to report that our staff is healthy right now. Everyone is working from home, except in the clerk's office, they're doing shifts, and that's to accommodate payments and people that walk in. And our fire department is still operating per usual, as well as our police department. And we'll keep you up to date if anything changes, if there's any outspread amongst City Hall or our staff. We will keep you informed about that. The city is, for the first time, going to sponsor a virtual holiday party. And Kim, can you explain that to them? And that'll be the end of my announcements. Thank you. Not announcements, comments.
Yeah, that's okay.
So we're scheduling a virtual Christmas party for staff and council. We're looking at Friday, December 18th, in the late afternoon or early evening to accommodate staff that can't participate during the work hours. So basically, we're just going to have some planned activities. It should last about an hour, and I hope that all of you will come that can and have just a fun time virtually together. So wear your ugly sweaters. We're going to have a contest.
I'm very
Thank
excited
you.
about that.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. And if I may, thanks so much, City Manager McMullan, for that reminder. On, excuse me, December the 10th, there will be a Ward 1 town hall. And we're having the Ward 1 town hall, and it's all focusing on the development, because the development is in Ward 1. And at one or two of the meetings, I'm not sure which one or more than one, the comments were made about it being Ward 1 and how Ward 1 people were really being brought in or going to be affected by it, or what their interest was, or how they felt. So we're focusing a whole town hall, and it'll be at on December the 10th at 7 o'clock. And council is welcome to Zoom in. And with it being for Ward 1, I believe that in the planning, we did discuss that we were going to try to keep the comments from the residents in Ward 1. And that's all three precincts, the entire Ward 1 for this town hall. So I too hope everyone had a safe holiday. I see all the council here looking well and healthy, and just want to encourage everyone to stay safe, stay well, wear your mask, and encourage everyone else that you encounter to wear their mask. I know I was on a call yesterday morning with Congresswoman Dingle, and she was commenting about that she was out over the weekend and how many people she encountered not wearing a mask. And so please, let's just encourage our people to wear a mask. And there is hope on the other side of this. We are going to get through. We are going to get through this pandemic. We're going to get through this whole episode of what's going on. I did send out a poem. Someone sent it to me, and it was focused on the pandemic and what's going on with it, but it was also saying that there's hope. It was a Christmas poem. I don't know if you received it today. I sent it to everyone. If I had your cell number, because I did send it by text, but there is hope on the other side of this, and we are going to get through this. We really are. And I believe that should bring us to the call for adjournment. Does it, Clerk Kalinga? Okay. Well, I'm just going to declare tonight that we are adjourned. Thanks everyone for your participation in the conversation. Appreciate it.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Night. Take care.
Good night, everyone.